let's now again make sure everything's working and correct. Looks like we're set and ready to go. Let me just make sure YouTube's working. There we are. Awesome. Welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. I'm a little bit late and a little bit didn't have everything quite set up right because of kind of the topic of today's video, actually. So if you're in the United States, today is the day before our Independence Day. And that's what I wanted to talk about today because I figured it's almost Independence Day, and there's a way that we can sort of relate independence to how we play as musicians and some things to be thinking about and trying out in your practice. So what I mean by that is this idea of independence of the different variables when it comes to playing. Sometimes things kind of get in the way, whether we're doing one thing, we're trying to make something go right, and that actually makes something else go worse. A lot of times when I'm teaching and talking with my students, I describe that as these kinds of things, where one variable has to be doing this and another variable has to be doing this, and we have to keep those independent, because if we start doing this with both variables or this with both variables, then we might not get the best results that we want. Let me give a more specific and practical example of this just to really sort of spell out what I mean. A great one is going faster. So that's the variable, is like the tempo. We're trying to push the tempo faster. We're trying to force or encourage or push, I think is really the right word for it. We're pushing the tempo faster. But then if we start pushing our fingers too hard, pushing is squeezing the instrument too hard, whether it's clarinet, string instruments, piano, whatever you're doing, you're pushing too hard with your fingers. I think this even applies for singing, where maybe your tongue or your throat or something you're using to sort of make the words happen is pushing a little bit too hard, and pushing means tension. So we end up getting tense, and that actually slows us down. So in trying to push the tempo with the one variable, we're also pushing the technique and causing tension and not being able to go as fast as we want. A really clarinet specific example, but a really good one, is with the air and the embouchure, where we want to push more air because more air is always good, more reed vibrations, really putting the energy into there. So we're pushing the air, or we're being strong with the air, really blowing hard, and then we end up getting harder and stronger with our embouchure. We start biting on the reed, and as we put more and more air, we're putting more and more bite, and we're not actually getting any benefit out of that more air because we're just pinching off the reed and not letting it vibrate with the embouchure. So these kinds of things are examples of where we need independence of the variables. The air needs to be strong and moving forward and maybe pushing, flowing, supported, steady, all that good stuff. The embouchure also needs to be strong and supported, but in a little bit different way than the air. With the fast fingers, yeah, we want to go fast, but we need to push the tempo and relax the fingers in order to go faster. And I think there's a couple workarounds to this. One is just true independence of the variables, where you can think about being stronger with one thing and more relaxed with something else simultaneously. That takes a bit of practice and is a little bit tricky. Another workaround that I might encourage you to try is to be relaxed with both. So instead of pushing the tempo faster, speed up the tempo and think about relaxing into the faster tempo, and then your fingers will also relax. So that's a little bit of maybe before you're pushing both and it's not working well. So you can either be truly independent, push the tempo, relax the fingers, or maybe just relax both, and maybe that works out too. So it just depends on the circumstance and the situation, but you can try and experiment with both of those and see what's going to feel good for you to get the variables working in the way that they need to. Sometimes it's thinking about one variable in a different way that helps with the other variable. Sometimes it's actually having that independence. But either way, whether it's true independence or sort of shifting the perspective a little bit, we need to make sure that we're playing in a way that every variable is able to do what it needs to do in its own sort of little compartment. So that's just a little bit of a thing to be thinking about for you for this week in your practice. Don't forget, these Monday Music Motivations are all about getting your practice scheduled, getting your practice planned so that you have something to commit to, something to stick to, and a sort of deliberate path forward for what you want to accomplish this week. Because when you have clear goals for what you want to achieve this week, then it's much easier to actually do it. And then when you actually schedule your practice, then there's no way that you're not going to do it. So get your template. You can go to the link in the description, quickstartclarinet.com/get started to download this or make it for yourself. We have our date for the week, reflection of how things are going, goal for this week, and then your practice plan. This is a little bit of an unusual week for me because I'm going to Clarinet Fest. I hope maybe I'll get to see some of you who might be watching this at Clarinet Fest. That'd be a ton of fun. And at Clarinet Fest, I'm going to be competing in the orchestral audition competition. So that's a big thing of what I'm working on. In my reflection, I've been doing some mock auditions last week, and those have been going pretty well. Feeling more comfortable and confident with those things and have a really good idea of what I need to do when I get out there on stage ready to perform. So all that's left to do is finish getting ready. So today I'm going to be trying a bunch of my reads, picking some of my favorite reads, narrowing it down a little bit. So when I get there, I have a good idea of what reads I want to be looking at. And then it's just going to be a last mock audition, couple run throughs, getting things going. And then the very last thing that I'm going to do going into it is just lots of listening, getting in the zone. I can play it. It's speaking of independent variables. The clarinet playing is there. I can do it on the clarinet. Now I just need to really be clear on what I want musically, revisit that, re-polish the musical details that I want and how the pieces go so I feel comfortable and confident with those when I go into it. And then the clarinet playing's already there. Clarify again those music ideas, and hopefully it'll come across exactly how I want. Also because I'll have my good reads picked out. So that's my plan for this week. Go ahead and fill out your template. Make your plan for this week. Have a great week of practice. Anybody who's going to Clarinet Fest, if you find me, definitely say hello. Have a great time at Clarinet Fest if you're going to be there. Have a great Independence Day if you're in the United States. Keep thinking about those independent variables and have a great week of practice. And I will see you next week on the next live Monday Music Motivation. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.